2010.
Right. And on paper, these Chargers were likely one of the best NFL teams of the Super Bowl era of all time.
Take it back to 1920, NFL history.
And yet this team did not win the Super Bowl, didn't make the Super Bowl, didn't win a playoff game, didn't make the playoffs. This team missed the playoffs entirely. Alex, how is this possible?
They were a team.
Because you need all three phases of the game to work. Don't think y'all realize that, bro. This is why I say rings is such a dumb culture. Ring culture is some of the dumbest culture you can ever have. Like,
This is a story that is just absolutely tailor-made for dorks like us.
It's just, yeah, for teams and like saying that's your favorite team, yeah. Players, no.
First, the offense. There was everything to like about the 2010 Chargers offense. It was led by Phillip Rivers, an absolute goofus maloofus who has never received all the credit he's deserved. In 2010, he finished his third straight full season with a passer rating above 100, and to this day, Rivers, along with Steve Young and Peyton Manning, are the only three quarterbacks to ever pull that off.
I was told Eli was better than this. Phillip Rivers didn't lose a game with 500. No. That game? Look at this. Where is it at? What was the final score of this game?
And Green, two tight ends.
He lost. I mean, Phillip didn't lose the game for us though.
So from the gun, Phillip's first pass. Gates to 6.
Phillip didn't lose us this game. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, this is what I mean. Like, this is a game-winning drive. Always down 7. It's never just 3.
Just 3. His next pass will be also a San Diego record for most attempts, and it's one that is caught.
And I bet y'all can't name none of these linemen on this fucking field.
By Gates on his 59th throw.
Name a lineman. I dare you.
They blitz. Across the middle. Somehow caught by...
Name one. I bet you can't name my receivers other than Keenan Allen, too. Go for it.
Gates.
Go for it. Okung was not on this team. Nope. Well, he didn't play this game. Nope. Nope. That's Chris Hairston. I know these players. It's Chris Hairston.
Blitzing.
It's not Okung.
Over to Woodhead.
This is Chris Hairston, DJ Fluker.
Get the blitzing.
I want to say, is that Nick
Gets
Hardwick?
It over to Woodhead.
That's not Nick Hardwick. That's Dan Feeney and Joe Barksdale.
But all he cares about is finding the end zone. First down. Rifles it down to the 14-yard line. No booth review. Here's the first down throw, and it is caught by Green.
Y'all remember Ladarius Green? Y'all remember when Phillip made that nigga like he was good? He went to the Steelers. I think something happened though. Before I start talking shit, I think Ladarius Green had like a health problem, so I'm not gonna continue that. I'm not gonna continue that. I think he had a health problem, so I'm gonna shut up.
His favorite target was Antonio Gates, once a star basketball player.
22 buckaroos, 22 schmuckers.
Yeah.
Big 22 goddamn months, man. She ain't pop in for that and just be lurking in the shadows, man. What's the word, bro? How you feeling? How you doing, man? When Keenan got hurt and signed with the Raiders, Dontre Inman? Or are you talking about Tyrell Williams? Yeah, Tyrell Williams. Yeah,
origins would help
that was like 2016 or 2017.
to upend
Because Keenan was drafted in 2013.
the
We're talking about
conventions.
Dontre Inman. They both went to the Raiders. So they both went to the Raiders.
His position. Along with Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten, and Shannon Sharp, Gates established the tight end position as a very serious scoring and receiving threat. In white, you see all the tight ends who are still active players today, following the trend Gates helped to establish. And by the way, as of the making of this video, Gates himself still isn't technically retired. Although Gates led the team with 10 receiving touchdowns, he missed 6 games due to injuries. In fact, Rivers' receiving targets were constantly getting.
Look at this. Come on, man. Y'all need, this is literally, put some respect on Phillip Rivers' name, man. Rest in peace to V-Jax. This nigga was throwing the ball to Legadu Nane. And Craig Davis. Like, bro. His name was Legadu Nane. He only really had like one significant Chargers play. And there was he caught a game winner against the Chiefs, or a game tire. I forget, it was a streak though. But he caught that shit on the side, on like the left side or the bottom side of the screen. That's the only significant play he's had. V-Jax, rest in peace. Malcolm Floyd was solid, nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying, decent. Patrick Creighton, couldn't tell you one good play he made. Same thing with Craig Davis.
Hurt. Malcolm
Randy Michael was so annoying.
Floyd was hobbled, Vincent Jackson was hobbled and suspended and holding out. In any case, missed a lot of the season. But Rivers made do with who he had, and he ended up assembling the second best passing attack in the NFL, completely out of spare parts. And when balanced with a respectable ground game featuring
with the starting running back of Ryan Matthews. Like, bro. Scheme over team. But you want to put rings over. See, now you're not making sense, Wunge. Is it scheme over team or is it rings? You got to pick one and stick to it. Because if it's scheme over team, then ring coaches shouldn't matter to quarterbacks still. You know what I'm saying? That's just your words, not mine.
Stud rookie Ryan Matthews and the perfectly spherical Mike Tolbert. This made for the NFL's #1 offense.
Crazy.
By this we mean that their offense gained more yardage than any other offense in the league.
That's not answering the question.
Colts, Saints, Patriots, anybody. So how does a team with the best offense in football miss the playoffs? Their defense must have been really bad, right?
And especially after coming off a relatively middling defensive performance in Ron Rivera's first full season coordinating the unit. But led by Pro Bowl pass rusher Sean Phillips and a secondary featuring cornerbacks Quentin Jammer and first-year starter Antoine Cason, along with safety Eric Weddle, the 2010 Chargers D managed to put it all together. They allowed the fewest passing yards and the 4th fewest rushing yards in the entire league. Add it all up, and they had the very top-ranked total defense. So with their league best ability in both racking up yardage and preventing their opponent from doing so, a massive chasm forms in the difference between those two figures. Overall, their offense gained nearly 2,000 more yards than their defense allowed. No one else that season was even in the same solar system. Generally speaking, and as we'll underscore more in a bit, there's a pretty strong correlation between this metric and winning ball games. And when that hasn't translated, the turnover battle's nearly always been the culprit. And in that department, the Chargers were a -6. Certainly suboptimal, but nowhere near bad enough to reconcile such overall dominance with whiffing on the postseason altogether. After all, the Colts and Saints were down here too, and they both cruised into the playoffs.
So, the Chargers had the #1 offense, the Chargers had the #1 defense, and there wasn't anything as far as like turnovers or anything like that that would explain all this blow.
They done broke Todd already. Todd broke. The sun disappeared and the 24-hour has begun. Where you finna sleep at? Right here. Put on my mustache ain't detachable. So a nigga wear a different color all of a sudden, bro, it's all right, man. All right, man.
blowing up in their faces. So, what phase of the game does that leave?
I think that leaves special teams, John.
Yeah, my least favorite part of football. It's all stupid. Sucks. I hate it. Don't use a foot for anything. Abolish special teams altogether is what I say.
Especially field goal kicking, that always seemed so random and arbitrary compared to the broader objective of the game. You might as well just give the offense like a Rubik's Cube if they can't score a touchdown, and the closer you are, the more time you get.
Yeah,
sure. Anything else you wanted to get off your chest about special teams?
Yeah, I'll bring it in.
It doesn't deserve our time.
No. And this is how it all fell apart.
My bad, we good. I hate spacebar and we good.
Here we see all 2,327 plays that made up the Chargers' 2010 season, excluding extra point and 2-point attempts. For nearly 45% of the season, the Bolts got to trot out the best offense on earth. For another 40% or so, they got to trot out the best defense on earth. That left just 15% for their special teams unit.
See?
How bad can a special teams unit possibly be?
Punts,
and how much damage could they possibly do in so little time? Let's go to Alex Rubenstein for the play-by-play.
I'm telling you, bro. The shit was bad.
The Chargers season kicked off in Kansas City, the back half of a Monday night Week 1 doubleheader where a couple Chiefs playing in their first career game had their way with the Chargers on punt returns in the second quarter. On this one, Antoine Applewhite and James Holt parted like the Red Sea for Javier Arenas to run through. Then Mike
it wasn't even just our kicker. It was our coverage that was bad. It was our punting that was bad. Like, let's say, for example, you realize they didn't put points in there, right? Because our punts would sometimes get blocked for touchdowns. Sometimes they get blocked and they don't have 30 yards to go for a touchdown. Like, it was just ass.
And James Holt parted like the Red Sea for Javier Arenas to run through. Then Mike Tolbert failed to bring him down, with only punter Mike Cyphers saving the touchdown. 4 minutes later,
technically,
punter Mike Cyphers saving the touchdown.
If the Chiefs scored, the defense only giving up 30 yards.
4 minutes later, gunner Donald Strickland dove at air. Long snapper David Binn sort of just fell down in Arenas' general vicinity, and linebacker Brandon Seiler wasn't much more than an inconvenience en route to another lengthy return. Then near halftime, the dam completely burst when Dexter McCluster wanted in on the fun. San Diego over-pursued, let McCluster...
I don't think y'all realize, this is why I say rings should not matter. Rings don't matter in football. Because you can have the best offense, the best defense, and your punter and your specialty just be ass and give up 60 yards and 3 points.
Bounced outside, and from there, his speed was simply too much for any Charger to interrupt his journey to the end zone.
That's 10 points.
The Chargers lost by
that's 13 points.
Touchdown. After crushing the Jags to even up their record at 1-1, the Chargers traveled up to Seattle. Despite more than doubling Seattle's yardage output, they just couldn't tread water on special teams.
Seattle had 2 kick returns this game.
To kick off the second half, C.J. Spillman and Strickland took shoddy attempts at bringing down Seahawks return man Leon Washington, who then shook San Diego's terrified kicker Nate Kading to complete his 101-yard romp to pay dirt. But behind Rivers and their league-best offense, the Chargers rallied late, with Gates scoring a TD in the waning minutes, followed by a 2-pointer that tied the game at 20. Great shape, as long as they don't allow a second touchdown off a kickoff return.
I remember this year. Oh, man.
Washington hauls it in at his own 1, and after Holt and Jacob Hester take large grasps at nothingness, gets momentarily stood up amid a gaggle of Chargers, only for none to bring him down. Then we can pinpoint the exact moment Kading is considering a career change. The Chargers lost by a touchdown.
And like, the thing is like, somehow, for some reason, this is like Phillip Rivers' fault. This is why QB wins don't matter and rings don't matter, in my opinion, for this specific reason right here. They don't. This should be 3-0.
They cruise the next week against
Jet. Yes. Yes.
The Cardinals. Then came a Week 5 showdown in Oakland.
Yes.
Despite dominating the offensive and defensive portion of the proceedings, They couldn't quite overcome the early 12-point hole they dug themselves, thanks to not one, but 2 blocked punts.
Like, yo, this was so bad, man. This was so bad.
In the game's first 5 minutes.
9 points.
The Raiders got 9 points from those plays. The Chargers lost by 8.
Sorry, I'd like to butt in for just a second to talk about punt blocks. Punt blocks almost never happen. There were only 12 across the entire 2010 NFL season. Naturally, 4 of these were suffered by the Chargers, but what's most incredible is that these 2 punt blocks occurred on back-to-back drives. The odds of this happening twice in a row on paper? Roughly 42,000 to 1. Anyway.
After that game, San Diego was leading the league in total offense with no one else particularly close. Coupled with an excellent defense, their total yardage differential of plus 1,078 wasn't just far and away the best in the league, but to this day is a modern NFL record through 5 games. Since the AFL-NFL merger in 1970, only the 09 Giants have so much as come within 150 yards of the 2010 Chargers' gargantuan figure. And these Bolts had a losing record to show for it. In terms of special teams performance, at least they knew this had to be rock bottom. Then someone handed them a shovel.
I remember all these games, bro.
A few minutes into their Week 6 game in St. Louis, Danny Amendola eluded gunner Richard Goodman, and 42 yards later, he'd set the Rams up in prime position for a chip shot field goal. In the fourth quarter, Kading slipped on his own field goal attempt, leading to an easy block. The Chargers lost by a field goal.
Like, this is why I could never have my heart broken, bro. I done been through some Chargers shit. I can't never go through real heartbreak. I done been through this shit. Realistically.
Following week, Hester failed to bring down Julian Edelman on a punt near the end of the first half. 34 yards later, Edelman had provided Tom Brady great field position, again leading to a chip shot field goal. The Chargers lost by a field goal. Now, despite outgaining their opponent by over 125 yards in 6 of their 7 games, the only post-merger team that's ever done so, they were sitting there with a 2-5 record. They rebounded down the stretch and started turning all these thorough dominations into actual real-life wins, 7 of them across their final 9 games, in fact, including 4 blowouts. But their bed was already made, and it was too little, too late.
I say this as a lifelong Chiefs fan. It is tragic that Kansas City took this playoff spot over the Chargers. All in all, they were vastly inferior, and it showed when they were immediately run off their own field by the Ravens in the first round. It also showed in Week 14 in San Diego. With quarterback Matt Castle out with an appendectomy, backup Brody Croyle was shoved out there to start for the Chiefs. So yes, the Chiefs were shorthanded, and yes, the Chargers were on their home field. They took advantage. They lined up their shot, and then they blew the Chiefs to hell. 31-0. It was the most lopsided shutout loss in the NFL that season.
Damn.
The statistical profile of this game is horrifying. The Chargers held the Chiefs to 0 points and well under 100 yards.
Damn.
And they didn't even need a single turnover to do it. It was matter-of-fact domination. This is one of only 5 such performances in the history of the league. It would be more at home in the NFL's Old Testament than the modern era. Even there, it has trouble making friends. For one, it allowed fewer yards than any of the others. For another, the rest of these performances came during low-scoring, hard-fought defensive battles. One ended 13-0, 2 ended 6-0, and 1 ended in a scoreless tie. This was a 31-0 pound.
Imagine going out there getting CT for the game to end in a fucking 0-0 tie. I'm pissed. Somebody gotta die. Somebody gotta die in that field. So we leaving with something. We're leaving with a body part or something. I'm sorry, bro. 0-0 game for 4 hours? Got me fucked up.
The indignities did not stop there. Croyle never started another NFL game. His final career record as a starter was 0-10, and he would go down in history as the first quarterback of the Super Bowl era to start at least 10 games and never win a single one. This beatdown pulled the Chargers to 1-1 against the Chiefs on the season. This meant San Diego, by virtue of their superior record within the division, would have held the tiebreaker if only they could have pulled even.
Yep.
They never could. But for one Sunday afternoon, they took my poor football team and they broke them in half. It was their only consolation. When the postseason started, the NFL's best offense and best defense were nowhere to be seen. The NFL has been a 32-team league since 2002. To even rank in the top 3 in both offense and defense in the same year is an incredible accomplishment. In fact, these are all the teams in this era to rank in the top 3 in either offense or defense. You can see how far most of these teams sagged from one end to the other. Some teams with top offenses also had good defenses, but more often than not, their defenses were awful. The opposite is true as well. Teams with stellar defenses tend to have weak offenses.
Yeah.
Now in red, you can see the teams that missed the playoffs despite ranking in the top 3 in either category. All the red down here makes a lot of sense. A bad defense can and will totally scuttle a great offense. I'm sure Saints fans can tell you all about that. Naturally, we see a lot more green up here. Teams that paired a great defense with even a decent offense were almost guaranteed to make the playoffs. But only one of these teams ever put it all together. Look at all that daylight between the 2010 Chargers and the rest of the field. No one ever really even came close to accomplishing what they did.
Remember how I talked about how for the season, the 2010 Chargers offense gained nearly 2,000 more yards than their defense allowed? Well, in that same post-merger time frame, there were only 2 other instances of a team outgaining their opposition by that much. And their seasons each ended in the Super Bowl. Not even the 16-0 Patriots of 2007 soared as high as these Chargers. As for teams that wound up missing the playoffs, no one but the 74 Cowboys all the way down here has even cracked a yardage differential of 1,400. On a per-snap basis, their offense generated nearly a yard.
Also, all them blocked field goals and blocked punts and kick returns and all that other shit, we were still going to finish like a top 3 defense, no matter what. Our defense was great that year. It was amazing. 2 good pass rushers, 3 good corners. We had Weddle. We had 2 good linebackers, good D tackle, good. Like we had that was a great team. Our offense, I don't know how the fuck Philip did that shit, but Philip carried it. You know?
1.5 more each play than their defense allowed. That remarkable discrepancy also is in its own stratosphere, with the Steelers barely cracking the 1-yard barrier that season, and no one else reaching even 0.8 yards. But thanks to their special teams, none of it mattered, especially spearheaded by a punt unit that opponents feasted on for nearly 19 yards per return. They shot themselves in the foot like no other team ever.
Nigga, 19 yards of return? $19 yards of return is pretty insane.
If they'd have won just one of those 5 maddening losses that they dominated throughout, they'd have necessarily been AFC West champs. The most depressing aspect of this all might be surrounding Kasim Osgood, who for years wasn't just their special teams leader and captain, but also excelled enough to be the AFC's special teams Pro Bowl representative 3 of the prior 4 years. Then ahead of this 2010 season, they let him get away in free agency and subsequently authored what can only be considered the single worst season of special teams in the 99-year history of the NFL.
Who was in charge? Was there anyone in charge of special teams that year for the Chargers?
So their special teams coach, Steve Crosby,
Don, you got to think about it. This is before all the analytics and shit, too.
Time coaching veteran.
What's the word, John?
30 years coaching in the NFL. That was highlighted by becoming Bill Belichick's offensive coordinator during the Browns' final couple seasons in Cleveland.
So, like a good coach, he was totally a good coach.
Totally a good coach. And then he took a team that was one of the greatest regular season teams ever, and his unit single-handedly sunk them.
Something I want to show you. So I dug up some official team photos of Steve Crosby, right? And look at how he changes over the years. Which is to say, not at all. Yeah, those may have been taken on the same day, but those were taken 5 years apart.
Or he's just the greatest ager of all time.
You know what it is look at this. 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. All of a sudden, barely cracks a smile, done. Out of the NFL. See, you can't smile if you're a coach. You can't be happy. You can't have things that you like. You can't enjoy yourself. At the end of this, I feel bad for a lot of people. I feel especially bad for Phillip Rivers, and this is why. So, Alex, I put together a chart that includes every quarterback of the Super Bowl era who started at least 50 games, right? This is all of them. Every dot is one of them. On the x-axis, you see how many games they started. On the vertical axis, you see what their career passer rating was. And in green, you see the guys who went to the Super Bowl and won it. That's a lot of quarterbacks. The more the better once you get higher in passer rating. And then in red, you see the guys who missed entirely. Yellow, you see the guys who made a Super Bowl and didn't win it. That big red star up there on the upper right with almost no friends around him is Phillip Rivers. I mean, he's probably the best quarterback never to win one besides maybe Dan Marino, and has to be the best quarterback to never even go to the Super Bowl, right?
Not only is that true, but he had a great shot to make the Super Bowl the season before this, 13-3 Chargers team, and in their first playoff game, what doomed them was
I hated this little head motherfucker. His head is tiny as shit. I hated this nigga.
missed chip shot field goals by Nate Kaeding in a 3-point loss.
So Phillip Rivers is far from done, right? And he's still got a few years left before, age catches up to him, I'm sure. The Chargers went 12-4 last season. They figured to contend again this year. So I would say be a pretty good chance for a fairy tale ending for these Chargers. Except we have Mahomes now on the Chiefs, so never